The crowd pushed the human child forward. Before him, the dragon watched, the ground shaking with every breath the creature took. Its eyes burned like dying suns, and the people behind the boy believed this act was mercy. Mercy for themselves. A single, small life traded for the survival of their city. The child was thin, too young to understand the frantic shouts that had surrounded him moments ago. He only knew a deep, cold fear. As the heavy chains fell away from his wrists, he stood utterly alone, facing the alien dragon that had erased cities and melted entire armies with ease. An eerie silence fell over the valley as the great beast lowered its head. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the inevitable. But the dragon did not strike. It leaned closer, its massive nostrils flaring as it inhaled the child's scent. Beneath shimmering scales, ancient memories began to surface. This child didn't smell of aggression or threat. He smelled of loss, hunger, and loneliness. The dragon had been engineered for one purpose: destruction. It was never meant to think, to feel, to decide. Yet this single moment forced a choice upon it. The crowd grew restless. They had fed prisoners to the dragon before. Screams always followed, brief and terrible. This time, there was only the sound of quiet breathing. The child, driven by an instinct he couldn't name, lifted a small, trembling hand and touched a warm scale on the dragon's snout. It wasn't an act of defiance, but of simple innocent curiosity. A ripple of energy pulsed through the air. The dragon pulled back suddenly, its mind flooded with images it had long suppressed. Eons ago, its own young, small and helpless, had been taken and burned by the very species now watching from the ridge. A universe of rage had defined its existence ever since. But the child standing before it carried none of that ancient guilt. He was pure, untouched by the sins of his ancestors. The dragon's colossal body began to move, curling around the child, not to crush, but to shield. The inferno that burned within its chest dimmed. Seeing this, the crowd panicked. The hum of charging weapons filled the air. The dragon roared, a sound that seemed to split the very sky, but no attack followed. It was a warning. A clear and final line had been drawn. Days turned into a week. The dragon remained in the valley, a silent sentinel. The child, no longer afraid, slept peacefully against its warm, scaly side. When the dragon was brought food, it shared. It offered its warmth during the cold nights, a living furnace of protection. One afternoon, for the first time since his capture, the child laughed. Fear had slowly been replaced by a strange, comforting routine. The observers, watching from afar, finally began to understand the truth they had missed. This dragon was not a mindless weapon of war. It was a guardian that had never been given a reason to protect, only to destroy. One small, innocent human child had completely changed the equation. When soldiers finally advanced on the valley, the dragon rose to meet them, placing itself between the army and the settlement. It did not unleash fire upon the city. It burned their weapons, melting them into slag. It forced a retreat without a single casualty. From a safe distance, the child watched his guardian defend a people who had tried to sacrifice him. Eventually, the dragon left. It rose into the sky, carrying the child gently to a distant, peaceful world untouched by war. The story of that day spread across the star systems, a legend whispered on countless worlds. The species that tried to save itself by feeding a child to a monster had failed. Their sacrifice was rejected. Instead, an unexpected act of compassion had succeeded in ways they could never have imagined. The monster they feared had chosen to become something more. It had chosen to become a savior.